Start this. And I see folks are entering the room, so I will begin our meeting in just a short moment. Thank you everyone for joining. We are going to get started in just a moment. And again, if you're just joining us right now, welcome to our AGM. We will be starting in just a moment as well. Thank you folks for hopping on in this Zoom room. We're excited to have you here, excited to have you in this space. If you are joining us virtually in a place that you can join us as well, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to get to know you a little bit further. Awesome, and I see that Zoom room filling up real quickly. And for those of you joining us in a different capacity, whether it is live stream or otherwise, we are excited to have you here. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for being here today. Seeing that it is 2:03 p.m., I am going to be starting our meeting formally and officially. Again, hello, my name is Ashley Shabankare. I am the board president for Folk Alliance International, and I use she, they pronouns. And again, I would like to welcome everyone for joining us today for Folk Alliance International's 2024 annual general meeting. By means of visual description, I have pink and black hair, I'm wearing a teal and white cardigan, and I am surrounded by costumes galore from Mardi Gras time because that is my energy today. All right. Having verified that we actually have a quorum of our 21-member seated board, I'm officially calling this meeting to order at 2:03 p.m. I want to first begin by acknowledging the complexity and privilege of gathering in online and the legacy of colonization embedded within the technology, structures, and ways of thinking that we use every day. We acknowledge that our office is located in Kansas City on the ancestral indigenous lands of the Osage, Kansa, Kaw, Kickapoo, and Oceti-Sakowin nations. I am personally speaking to you for today from what is known as New Orleans, also known as Bulbancha, the traditional lands of the Chimacha, Choctaw, and United Homa Nations. We will be having members participating in today's Zoom meeting who are able to comment in the chat, who will be able to vote using a polling system. We also have non-voting and non-members viewing today's AGM on various live stream platforms. Thank you for joining us. And we invite all of our attendees to find out more about the traditional stewards of the land where they can join us from today. And you can find that information by going to native-lands.ca, and we can share that in the chat box now. Our first order of business for today is our approval of our agenda, which was circulated via email. Since our meeting is virtual, in order to vote for each motion, all voting members present will see a pop-up screen on your screen where you're going to be asked to select one of three options. We remind small, medium, and large group membership holders that only the designated official representative should cast the organization's I'm tongue-tied today. So sorry, folks. So that designated official should cast the organization's vote. So for our first motion, I move that we approve the agenda of Folk Alliance International as circulated by the membership in advance, posted through the website, and shown here. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks so much, Reed. The motion has been seconded by Reed Wick. Is there any discussion or any additional business to note? And for those of you joining us virtually, feel free to, if there is additional business, this is an opportunity to add this into the chat. All right, great. Seeing as there is no additional comments within the chat, there's now a motion to approve the agenda on the screen here, giving you options of in favor, opposed, and abstained for vote. Please take a moment to fill in the poll. All right, great. And I will see that it is displayed on the screen here that the motion passes. Thank you so much, everyone, for providing your feedback. That is approved. Next, onto our approval of our minutes of the 2023 AGM, which was held online on February 22nd, 2023. These minutes were posted on our website and linked in the agenda, which was distributed to all members. The minutes also include a list of those present at last year's meeting. We hope that everyone has had a chance and an opportunity to review them. As president, I move that we approve the minutes of the 2023 AGM as circulated. Can I get a second?
I second the motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks so much, Art. The motion has been seconded by Armenius, and if there aren't any questions or corrections, the poll is officially live on the screen here. We'll give folks a moment and a chance to fill in the poll that is live now. I feel like I should have had like hold music for today. So I'm just dancing until I see the poll pop back up in front of me. It's a great introduction for folks who have never met me, that this is actually my energy, just dancing in silence. And I have not seen the poll pop back up. There it goes. All right. Seeing the results on the screen here, the motion has been approved. Thank you again for filling in yet another poll on our end. Thanks so much, everyone. All right, so I'm going to be transitioning on into my president's report for this year's AGM. First and foremost, I just want to say how exciting it was to see so many of you in Kansas City a few short weeks ago. Truly, and just speaking from my heart here, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful to see so many of your faces, to see the way in which we as a community came together, and as we continue to come back from the pandemic, being in space together. There was something so special and so magical about it. And I just want to thank everyone so much who was able to join us in person. If you are unable to join us in person, I'd love to just take a moment now to introduce you to so many of our wonderful board members, both incoming and retiring, who have dedicated their time and energy to serving Folk Alliance International. So first and foremost, I'd want to take a moment to acknowledge our retiring directors and thank them for their service. And we're going to put back up on the screen some of these retiring directors, and you'll see them pop up on the screen too in just one short moment. Fawn, do you mind popping back up the slides? Sweet. Thanks so much. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with our treasurer of over the past few years, Kevin Dalton. And I want to start by thanking Kevin for his service on the board. He joined the board back in 2021 as an appointed director. And during his tenure, he's been a part of our executive committee as treasurer and served as the finance committee chair. As those of us in XCOM know, Kevin has been our voice of reason always. And so I want to thank Kevin so much for being that continued voice of reason and for all of his tenure during his time on the board. Thank you again, Kevin. Our next retiring director is Catalina Maria Johnson. During Catalina's term on the board, she served as our Programming and Awards Committee chair. And through her work in programming and awards, she's really helped our organization showcase and honor incredible voices and individuals from throughout the folk community. I am always in awe and so impressed by the depth and level of community that Catalina brings to this organization. And we are so grateful for all of her work and dedication to the organization. So let's thank Catalina once again. She unfortunately couldn't join us today, but again, we want to thank her for her tireless service. Next up, we have Gary Picosa. Gary has served a total of 6 years on our board over 2 elected terms. And during his tenure, he served as our nominating committee co-chair. And he's been such a vital asset in helping us restructure our nominating committee process. For anyone that's done nominations for any board of directors, you know what a tedious and tireless job that this can be. And I just want to thank Gary so much for being literally on every single phone call, down to hop on every single phone call. So thank you so much, Gary, for all of your tireless work with the board. We are so grateful to you. And last but not least, we have Laura Thomas. Laura has served a total of 6 years as well, over 2 elected terms. And during her tenure, Laura served on the executive committee as our secretary. And she's also served as the advocacy committee co-chair, been a part of our regions committee, and more recently joined our global expansion committee. I see for all of the folks here, I just feel like each and every single one of them, Laura especially, have been such cheerleaders and amplifiers of the work of this community. And Laura, I want to thank you so much for your time and dedication. let's just take one moment to give a nice big round of applause and thank you to all of our retiring directors. Thank you so much. I'm going to do hands. Just such an honor to work with all of you. Truly, truly appreciate you. I feel like this is the moment that I'm like, am I going to cry right now? I could. So I just want everyone to know that this Capricorn could totally cry during today's AGM. All right. I would now also like to just take a moment to acknowledge the board and introduce our newest incoming directors. First and foremost, I'm going to start out in acknowledging that every board has an executive committee that acts on behalf of the board between the board meetings and per our bylaws and serve 2-year terms as XCOM members. Our current XCOM, including a new incoming member, include myself as president, Reed Wick as vice president, Rosalind Dennett as secretary, Dee Fretwell as treasurer, who will be taking over Kevin's role, and Lynn Zingari, who serves as our member at large. And thank you so much to all of you who I get to see once a month and spend a lot of time with. Thank you so much. And then if our remaining directors, we'll just take a moment where we're going to do like hands up, woo. Again, this is a webinar, so I'm making this webinar very awkward. I'm so sorry, everyone. This is where we're going today. If our remaining directors could put their hands up as I call their names, that would be so appreciative. The rest of our continuing board currently includes Bo Bledsoe. And I see Flo somewhere on the screen. There we are. Yeah, we have Laia Canales. And where is Laia? Is Laia on the screen? Laia may not be with us today. We have Mariah Zapp. Yay. Iona Fife. Now I just want to say yay after everyone pops up. Yay. And that's what I'm going to do now. Now I'm committed to the bit. We have Sarah Eichmann. Yay. We have Art Menius. More yay. We have Guillermo Sebaste. Yay. We have Gerald Torres. I don't think Gerald is on our screen today. We also have Caroline Randall Williams, who also is not here today. And then we have Tina oh my gosh, I'm getting tongue-tied on your last name, Tina. I'm so sorry. Tina Warblowski. There we are. All right. Thank you so much for all of you for serving and for your time to this organization. Truly, truly, such gratitude for all of you. Additionally, while we are sad to lose the collective knowledge and friendship of this year's outgoing directors, we have some re-elected members to our board. Our incumbent directors include Ayapa Bindata. We also have Ann Powers, Brandy Waller-Pace, and myself, Ashley Schwankre. Great to be back, y'all. And we also have our new directors that are coming on board with us as well. And so there are so many great new faces coming to our board. We're so delighted to have some wonderful new talent that are here. These folks include Elizabeth Kawine, Dee Fretwell, Therese Lagama, and Charlie Mossbrook. And I see that, I'm so sorry for folks that are just here. I will also, I'm going to remove my spotlight for just a moment. Actually, I don't think I can unpin myself. There we go. And so that way everyone can see all of our wonderful board members that are here on the screen. So I just want to take a moment. We are all here. So sorry if you did not get to see us sooner. And I believe that you should be able to see all of us now if you cannot already. Thank you so much for raising that to our attention, Eric, that you couldn't see folks present. And I just want to extend to all of the folks here my profound and heartfelt thanks to all of you. You are all remarkable individuals, and I am, again, so appreciative of all of your time and dedication. Words simply can't express how much of a pleasure it is to work alongside each and every single one of you. Thank you so much. All right. And so we're actually going to return back to our slide deck here. So as we kind of pivot and transition from this moment, I just also want to acknowledge that we have been returning back in person, and it's been such a thrill and delight to be back together again. And we're also continuing and striving to make some financially responsible decisions towards growth and sustainability to continue to serve all of our members. I want to thank our development committee co-chairs, specifically Sarah and Art. And under their leadership in our development committee, we to date have had over 80% participation of our board, staff, and contractor donations to Folk Alliance International this year, and continue to keep growing that number as well. Our goal each year is to have 100% participation, and we are on track to do that once again this year. Development and fundraising is an increasingly an important priority for the health and future of the organization, and we're going to continue to work towards increasing fundraising goals throughout the coming year. With all of that said, and with all of the space that I've just taken up in this moment, I would love to invite our interim executive director, Jennifer Rowe, for the interim executive director report.
Thank you, Ashley. I don't think I can bring the same level of energy that you're bringing, however. I'll try. It's really great to be here this afternoon. Just a little bit about myself. I started working at Folk Alliance when the organization moved to Kansas City from Memphis back in 2013. I'm honored to be in the interim executive position and work alongside the board, our staff, and many contractors. It was a pleasure to see many of you in Kansas City less than 2 weeks ago for our conference. Our conference theme was Alchemy, a Transformative Force. The theme was woven throughout the conference, where we discussed the possibility of transforming one form into something else, the power of music to turn something bad into something beautiful. And I hope our team was able to provide a transformative experience for all of our attendees. We heard it was one of the best conferences ever, and we truly want to understand why. Like, what is it that made it one of the best conferences? I know there were hiccups, like our app not working properly until day 2 of the conference. But if you did attend, please consider completing the conference survey. We'll drop a link in the chat. We do diligently go through the survey results and are always considering ways to better serve our attendees. On the screen, you can see the conference numbers. Although we are not back to our pre-pandemic numbers, the attendee number grew over 15% from our 2023 conference, with 2,264 people on site. And on Wednesday night, we already had 1,500 attendees pick up their badge, which I think is a record. I don't think we ever got that high. Our daytime programming was robust, with biggest complaint being the difficult decision of what to attend during the day. This year, there were 4 summits during the conference. For the second year in a row, we provided space for the Black American Music Summit. We're also able to welcome back the International Indigenous Music Summit, who last held the summit at our conference in January 2020. There was an all-day legal summit open to everybody, with an added benefit of CLEs for the lawyers attending. And we also hosted a wellness summit. The music coming out of the conference is always impressive, with well over 600 artists performing across official and private showcases. For the late night private showcases, we were back to using the full levels of the 5th through 7th floor, with over 2,500 performances over 4 nights in 80+ rooms. Artists were also able to share their talents during the Archive Challenge, which is hosted by the Library of Congress. They have been hosting this event for years, at least a decade and more. And you can see past performances on their website. We'll drop that link in the chat as well. It's really awesome, including board member Charlie Mossberg performed last year, I believe. And on Wednesday before the conference kicked off, Music to Life hosted a Kansas City Musicians Changemaker Accelerator Workshop in collaboration with Heartland Song Network, Mid-America Arts Alliance, Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame, and with Folk Alliance International. We did record our keynotes and other few panels, key panels, which we'll eventually share on our YouTube channel. And we also recorded the International Folk Music Awards, which is available for you to view now. And we're going to put the link in the chat. And believe it or not, when you watch this, so this is the enticement to watch it, Alex and I did not coordinate our outfits for that. But yes, we certainly did look like we did. So we will have a full conference report available on our website as soon as next month. But in addition to hosting the annual conference, we have a lot of year-round activities. This includes valuable webinars the year. Webinars are available on our YouTube channel and on our website, and we'll drop that link in the chat. In late August, early September of 2023, FIA worked with Jeunesse Musicale International based out of Belgium to host the 3rd annual Ethno USA. They had about 30 musicians from around the world between the ages of 18 and 30 who performed along with artistic mentors for a 10-day residency with a grand finale of multiple performances at the North Carolina Folk Festival. The next Ethno takes place late August through September 9th, 2024. Applications are now open, and we will also put a link in the chat for that. We continue to be actively involved in U.S. advocacy issues. One moment. My screen notes just got moved around. So 1 second, let me find my notes. Folk Alliance continues to be actively involved in advocacy issues year-round. We do have an advocacy committee of our board. This includes sitting on several coalitions, including artist visas, ticketing reform, and artificial intelligence. As a member benefit this year, FAI again submitted numerous albums to the Recording Academy under the Best Folk Album. Another member benefit includes writing letters of support for artists applying for U.S. work visas. We have over 50 organizations under our group exemption program, and there are currently 81 small organizations who take advantage of our house concert agreement. You can find out more information in the link that was placed in the chat. And last year, FAI presented a showcase at South by Southwest. We're hosting another one next week on Friday, March 15th at the Driscoll. If you're at South by, please make sure to stop by and say hi. And then I also want to talk about our North American regions. FAI leadership met with each of the regional boards over Zoom last summer and then organized a regional leaders meeting in December 2023. The Zoom meetings were great opportunities for our Folk Alliance to listen and understand ways that we can better serve our regions and work in partnership. The December in-person meeting included the presidents of each of the 5 regions and their executive directors, FAI's board president and vice president, and I also attended as well. All of us found this meeting to be extremely productive as we reviewed our agreement and worked on drafting a new agreement. We've officially added the regional leaders to Folk Alliance Regions Committee of the board. That started last month or back in January. You can find out more about our North American regions and Nordic Folk Alliance by visiting our website, which is linked in the chat. All of our regions host annual conferences. The Southeast region, SURFA, has their conference May 9th through 12th, and the Nordic Folk Alliance is scheduled May 21st through 24th. And then I also want to state that Folk Alliance is partnering with all 6 regions to host a virtual conference June 5th through 6th called Folk Plus. Please stay tuned as we share more information soon. And this week, Folk Alliance is issuing a request for proposal to several US-based cities to determine our 2026 conference location. So that will be a several-month-long process as we receive bids for that and start doing site selection or site visits for to various cities. But we are very excited that next year we'll be back in Montreal at the Fairmont Queen Elizabeth from February 19th through the 23rd in 2025. We will be announcing our conference theme and opening up registration in the next couple months. And I'm personally just very excited about the future of Folk Alliance and focusing on how we can better serve our membership and ensure that our roots are deep and strong. We'll be discussing this as a staff team and asking for feedback from you over the next several months. We want to make sure that we find that folks are finding value in becoming a member of Folk Alliance, even if you are not attending our annual conference. And as I close up, I want to give a huge thank you to our board of directors. They have and continue to be a huge support to our staff and genuinely care about this community and organization. It was a huge pleasure to see the board work together during the in-person board meeting directly before the conference and to see them interact with each other during the conference. I have complete faith in this board, and I specifically want to thank our executive committee, Ashley, Reed, Kevin, Rosalind, and Lynn, for your leadership, especially over the last several months. And finally, I want to thank our team. And if we can put up the picture of our team, pictured on the screen are, you can see our staff members along with many of our conference contractors. Our staff members are working daily to serve our membership and worked incredibly hard over the past several months to put together the final pieces of the conference. That includes Alex Mallett, Jared Rivers, Cindy Cogbill, who, by the way, returned to the team in late November. Super excited about that. She was with us during the Memphis years, and we're excited that she's back. Fawn Lies, Tisha Naipaul, Lily Joyner, Marina Unice, our publicist, Nick Loss-Eaton. Our conference team includes Jim Schultz, Beth Hatch, Claire Diamond, Kylie Lambert, Scott DeVouten, Ariel Silver, LaWanda Smith, Rebecca Campbell, Renata Robertson, and Tim McIlroy. And a special thanks to Jen Kuiper and Roger McBride, who are volunteers that stepped in last minute to support our volunteer team, and just were incredibly helpful. And that is all that I have to share. And I think the next person on deck is Kevin Dalton, our treasurer.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everyone. I'm here to report on the unaudited financials of the fiscal year 2023, which runs from July 1, 22 through June 30th of last year. FAIs recently went through the process of requesting proposals from new audit firms, and recently hired one based in Kansas City. The firm's named Mar & Co., and the staff just started the audit process this week, and FAI will provide the audit report to membership once that's finalized later in the spring. For the fiscal year 23, the board had approved a budget with a $200,000 loss, recognizing that government relief funding would no longer be available, and as the community continued to grapple with economic challenges. Despite the $200,000 budgeted loss, we concluded the fiscal year with a small profit. Again, I'll point out it's unaudited financials, so it might vary slightly, but nonetheless, that's a very positive swing and a positive result. Careful reduction of expenses was the primary factor that led to profit. Thoughtfully weighed decisions to reduce costs across the board while maintaining our high standard of service. We saved on workforce expenses as the team faced shortages for a significant portion of the year. That resulted in additional savings in operational expenses, and other strategic partnerships with various organizations allowed for optimization of resources. The collaborative efforts of the community played an important role as well in mitigating the loss, and we continue to rely on support from ongoing donations to FAI, and we're honored to receive a fairly significant anonymous donation. As we navigate the challenging times, the collective actions of our team, cost-saving initiatives, and continued support from the community position us favorably to handle fiscal challenges and emerge even stronger in the coming years. The chart that has popped up, I think. Yeah, there we are. This chart was distributed earlier in the annual report. It's a high-level summary of the unaudited financials. Can we start with the income one, perhaps? Yeah, thank you. Total income came in just under 1.5 million, which 63% of that was from conference income, registrations and sponsorships, 27% of that from donations, grants, and fundraising, 2.4% from membership dues, and the remaining from Ethno USA and some other programs that totaled roughly 20 grand, about 100 grand. Yeah, and the expenses next came in about 1.45, largely related to program services, 78%. So that's the cost of the conference and year-round programming, and 20% to general admin management, and then 2% for fundraising efforts. So again, in the spring, once the fiscal year financials have been audited, those will be distributed. And thank you. I guess I'll send this back to Ashley.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Greatly appreciate it. All right, so our next section of our AGM is our additional business section. And in this section, we actually want to pose a question to all of you within the community. As you may know, that our annual general meeting, we had moved this to a virtual format beginning in 2021 as a direct result of the pandemic. And this is a way that we could gather and meet together in the midst of a time that we couldn't be together in person. We've continued this practice since as a way for more community members to access the event and not be required to be at our annual conference to be an active participant. With that said, we really want to hear from you to get some feedback about how you want our AGM to be held in the future. Some options that include virtually only, so continuing in this Zoom format, or moving to a hybrid format with an in-person session at our conference, and also doing this via live stream and Zoom for those of you who are unable to attend in person. On the screen, there is a poll currently for how you prefer the 2025 AGM to be held. And we'd love for everyone to take a moment to submit your responses. This feedback, again, is incredibly invaluable for us so that we can understand how you would like to connect with us more moving forward. And so I will take just a moment longer just to let folks take a moment to fill in that poll and give that feedback. Again, this is a moment that I wish I had my playlist ready to go to play some hold music. And we'll give folks just a few more moments to provide those responses. Great, and thanks so much. And I see that it's a pretty close to equal split here. Recognizing that not everyone had filled in the responses, but we greatly appreciate this and we'll continue to take this input in as we plan for next year's AGM, noting that there is a slight preference to a hybrid option and pretty close in voting here. So thank you again so much for all of this information and context. Okay, great. Seeing that no additional new business was declared for our agenda today, I would like to open up the floor for general comments or questions, which we encourage you to share via the chat or by raising your hand. Since we are in a webinar format, it's a little bit more complicated than a regular Zoom meeting, so we will promote you to be able to speak by raising your hand in this webinar format. Again, questions in the chat are also highly welcome. Thanks so much. I'll give everyone a moment to gather those thoughts. Not going to rush anyone in those thoughts and feelings. And we also want to field questions from our YouTube audience attendees as well. So if you do have a question, we will be looking at those as well to provide feedback. And for those of you that are joining via Zoom, there is a raise hand icon in the chat, or not in the chat, in the bottom panel of your screen. You'll see next to participants, there is a raise hand option. So if you are interested in raising your hand, that actually indicates to us if you have any feedback as well. Oh, and Art, I'm so sorry, your hand is raised. So let me pass it on over to you.
I just wanted in front of the membership to congratulate Ashley and the XCOM and Jennifer and the staff for an amazing last 3 months. And I don't think anyone who wasn't directly involved would know what a wonderful job you all did. And I sure wanted the membership to know how much I appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much, Art. We really appreciate it. And I see some other additional comments in the chat. There was a note from Todd in the chat that requested that the opening night registration be open later than 10 p.m. We'll take in this feedback for sure and put this in with our conference feedback. We also highly recommend filling in that conference feedback form. And then I see that Eric has also placed a note in the chat requesting discussion of the issues pertaining to the recent NERFA elections. And we are happy to address these questions as well. Jennifer or Reed would love for any of the three of us to jump in as it relates to NERFA specifically. And Eric, I want to offer you any questions specifically that you want to ask, to please throw those into the chat. And thank you, Cindy, for dropping in that feedback link into the chat. Eric, I understand that you can't get out of mute mode currently. I see that Eric does have his hand raised. I'm sorry for assuming your pronouns. I see that Eric has their hand raised. Fawn, is there a way to allow for Eric to, there we go. I see Eric here now.
Okay, can you hear me?
He can hear you.
Because it's coming through my wife's speaker. Okay, I'm sorry.
Want to use this one?
There seem to be a lot, please mute. A lot of people who have questions about some issues pertaining to the recent NERFA elections. I know that I have seen some dialogue and discussions from people at FAI pertaining to this, but a lot of folks have requested information about numbers and other things pertaining to the elections, and to the best of what I have found, no responses have been received. My understanding is that FAI is looking into this matter, but I would like for someone on the FAI board to provide a status update. Tell us what is going on with looking into the possible irregularities in the elections for NERFA.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Do you want me to answer where we are at this point?
Oh, go right ahead.
Okay. So we have done an investigation in the irregularity or in the confusions about the NERFA election. We have finalized that and have shared our results with NERFA. We plan to share those results publicly as soon as next week. But yes, we did look into that. Specifically, Ashley, Reed, and I did most of the work in our direct communication with the NERFA board.
Oh, thank you. But that doesn't actually answer any questions. A lot of the NERFA members have concerns because of issues that arose in the 24 to 48 hours preceding the end of voting for the NERFA elections. People have been requesting information, but as far as I have been able to find, no information has been forthcoming from FAI regarding what they are doing or what they have found. And I am politely requesting some information.
Thanks, Eric.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Go ahead, Ashley.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say absolutely, and that is part of the response. Specifically, I will state regarding memberships that were purchased, and NERFA board member did purchase several memberships, but did so in a way that follows the existing standards and current policies of Folk Alliance. I can state that now, but for more information and for our complete statement in response, that will be forthcoming as soon as next week, if not earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Eric. Appreciate it. I also saw in the chat that there was a question from YouTube asking a clarification about where Folk Alliance International is going to be hosting its conference in 2026 and onward. To date, we have currently announced our 2025 conference location. However, we have not made any announcements yet for 2026. I believe that we are still looking at various locations and have RFPs out to various conference locations. We hope to make those announcements very, very soon once those are selected. Great. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions, y'all. Are there any additional questions at this time? I also want to offer for those of you that are joining us remotely or via Zoom or joining us on YouTube, that we would always love and welcome any sort of community member feedback. As Jennifer noted, we'll be doing some more in-depth questionnaires just to get feedback in regards to membership. But any sort of direct inquiries, please feel free to direct them our way. Again, we welcome that feedback as well. It is greatly appreciated. I do see an additional question in the chat in regards to a question again about the NERFA election process. Mary Beth, to answer your question about the possibility that someone may have accessed the NERFA voting process, we are looking into that as well, and that information will be forthcoming in that same statement. So thank you so much for that question and clarification. I see that Carol has a question in the chat saying, is Jennifer staying on? Yes, Jennifer's definitely still here, and we're thrilled to have Jennifer having stepped up into this space. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for stepping back into our interim executive director role. We greatly appreciate you. I saw that Dee just popped back up into the chat. Todd's question about opening up night registration later than 10 p.m. We are happy to look into that. I cannot answer that because I am not a staff member running the conference, nor do I want to speak for the staff in how conference operations run. So I will defer to the staff on that one.
We will absolutely write that down and consider that. We typically have registration open late on Wednesday and Thursday, I think till 11 p.m. And if you arrive late after registration closes, we still have an ability for you to access the private showcase floors and have communication with our private showcase coordinator. So we will better communicate that in the future so that you can easily access the private showcase floors if you come in late. Thank you.
I put myself on mute and I started to talk like I haven't been on Zoom for the past 4 years. So I see a piling of comments in the chat in regards to endorsing New Orleans as a location again. And as a New Orleanian, I, of course, am very biased in that, so I will abstain myself, but say I'm so thrilled to hear people love New Orleans. And I see that Ethan asked from YouTube a question of sharing some of the direct changes that came from our regional leaders retreat. Yes, thank you so much, Ethan, for that great question. There were a lot of great changes that came about as a direct result of our regional leaders retreat. I'll also offer for Reed to jump in on this as well. First and foremost, I want to just thank all of our regional leaders for being so willing to gather together in space and in community. One of the best things that came about from our time together was an understanding of everyone's work and space within our regions, what each region is doing very unique, the ways that we can support and uplift each other from a programmatic context. And really the ultimate thing that came out of it is updating and clarifying our regional agreement, which is something that we have in place with each of our regions. Reed, do you want to add to anything on this context? I'm going to let you jump in too.
Sure. You know, one of the things that we talked about with the regional leaders was, you know, with regard to revenue sharing and trying to also, excuse me, extend additional help from Focal Line staff with everything from better marketing of their events and across the entire FAI membership, as well as looking at training for new board members as they come in at the various boards. You know, one of the things we learned is that some of the regions have, you know, board members who have been engaged for many years, and some have board members who are brand new and not sure which way to turn. So looking at being able to provide a certain level of training that helps everybody be on the same page, obviously dealing with bylaws issues, how different regions have different bylaws. We've been in discussions about how we can potentially make some positive changes in that space that would ultimately lead to a positive outcome for everyone with regard to a new mutually agreed upon and mutually beneficial regional agreement between Folk Alliance International and the various regions. And I think the biggest issue in general is related to revenue sharing. So our board at our last meeting has discussed that, and we will continue to, I believe Jen mentioned that one of the immediate changes we were able to make immediately was we now have regional leaders that are officially on the board's regions committee, which I have the pleasure of chairing, so that we can have direct input and hopefully immediate impact as we move forward with planning all these things. So I see that as a real positive to have us working in tandem in that space. So.
And I'll just also offer and end on a note to say that working together, because we are a community and we are stronger working together. So we are thrilled and delighted to be uplifting each other's work, because that is what this community is truly all about. And so we're thrilled to roll a lot of that out. And of course, work collaboratively with our regions to host Folk Plus in June 5th and 6th. I saw that there were a few other questions in the chat. There was another question about registration opening up on Tuesday evening for early arrival folks. And again, I believe that is a staff related question. And of course, that feedback is very welcome in our conference feedback survey. Any of that sort of data is taken into full consideration. We highly recommend folks fill that in. We will be reading every single piece of that. Jennifer, go right ahead.
Oh, I'd love to give a comment. Our volunteers receive their registration often on Tuesday nights. So if you would like to get advanced registration, volunteer. But it is a lot of work to set up the registration queues. So we appreciate that feedback, but I don't think we have the time to open it up early because of the amount of work it takes to set up the printers and such. But we'll look into it.
Thanks so much. I also see that Mike Beck put a question into our Q&A and into the chat, noting that there are many of us who would like to see the afternoon private showcases reestablished. How should they make their voices heard about this? And again, I will defer to staff about ways to discuss private showcases for the afternoon.
As Cindy put in the chat, is please add that to your survey. So she put a survey link again in the chat. Mike, I know you attend the conference every year and host showcases. Please just put that comment, and that's something that we will discuss.
Thank you so much. And I see Noel's feedback in the chat about Memphis, also a great city to be in as well. And I love and appreciate everyone naming warm locations. Always a good vibe for sure. Are there any additional questions at this time? Thank you so much for all of these wonderful questions that keep pouring on in. Yes, Jennifer.
I see Mara Levine has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed the hand raise. And Mara, we're gonna pop you up in the chat. I'm so sorry if I missed your question, but we are going to move you in where you can ask your question. I actually don't think I have that ability to do so. Okay. Oh, wait, you were there and then you just, there we are. Mara, I see you now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Terrific, great. Yes, so I have a question about the procedure for making a revision to the bylaws. I just want to really quickly read the NERFA. Bylaws may at any time be amended by a vote of the members by a simple majority of votes returned in an electronic ballot. NERFA members can be notified of a bylaw revision vote either by special mailing to all members or via a notice in the FAI newsletter. So it says here that proposed bylaw amendments may originate with the board or from the membership upon a letter to the board supported by 10 or more members. So that is what the NERFA bylaws say. So my understanding is if we as members would like to see a change to the bylaws, we can submit a bylaw change with 10 or more members. And then once we do submit that, how does that bylaw change we're asking for, how does that appear on a ballot to be voted upon? What is the procedure that happens?
Fantastic question. Thank you so much for asking, Mara. So just to provide some additional context, the NERFA bylaws state that, and we also have a regional agreement, which has some additional provisions in place to review these as well. Per our regional agreement, and I want to also read that part out loud to you so you know what that process is and basically what that leads to for the submission of those bylaw suggested changes, which we love and welcome bylaw changes. I love when folks are engaged in governance related matters. So it states in our regional responsibilities that should regions desire to change its bylaws, the following process will be executed. The regions submit the bylaws to our executive director for prompt submission to our regions committee, which includes members of our Folk Alliance board of directors and our regional leaders. Then the Regions Committee reviews the proposed changes within 10 working days. If no issues are identified, changes will be placed on the agenda for the next scheduled FAI board meeting. From there, if there are any issues with the proposed changes, let's say they conflict with other policy related pieces or need further clarification, the Regions Committee and the Regions Chair will resolve them with that Regions President so that we can make sure that we can present these accordingly to the FAI board for review. If there are no issues whatsoever after the FAI board reviews them and says A-OK, that is when it goes to that full vote of the voting membership of that region. Right now, that's a little complicated of a process. We acknowledge that. And so one piece that we're trying to clarify right now is to streamline that. So if you are providing the bylaws updates for that region, and again, how will you be notified? Thank you for that clarification, Mara. So in addition to you submitting those should be submitted to that region with those 10 things. You can always CC or copy Jennifer or myself in any of these correspondence to make sure that those are received. And it will then go through the process from there. Those can be emailed at any point in time. And so again, we do love and appreciate and welcome governance suggestions and changes to help make for positive and healthy environments for all of us as community members working together. Mara, did that answer your question fully? And please forgive me if I missed any steps in that process.
Well, I would like to know where the regional agreement is published for us to see, because I do see bylaws for NERFA and Folk Alliance on the websites, but I haven't seen a place where I can see what those regional agreements look like. And I really appreciate that you say you're going to try to streamline the process, because the bylaws don't tell us that. The bylaws just tell us that if we submit a revision we would like to see, then it would appear on a ballot. It doesn't mention all of the other steps that you mentioned need to happen. So that's good to get clarification of that.
Of course. And just to echo Lee's comment in the chat, yes, a big theme here is transparency and what we are trying to make sure we can make clarified in this process after looking at all of these documents, which we inherited from other leadership and other spaces, is that we really want to make sure that this is transparent. And if we don't understand the process and y'all don't understand the process, we obviously need to clarify these things.
That's appreciated. Thank you.
Of course. And
is that regional agreement published somewhere?
That is, I do not believe that is published online because of the way that because of the context of what the agreement is, it is part of the group exemption policy, but we can find ways for us to clarify this and make this more transparent of what this process looks like and our expectations between these spaces. So I appreciate that question. Thank you. And again,
thank you. Thank you very much.
The transparency that we're talking about here. Thank you.
And if there is a way for people to read this regional agreement, that would be a great thing too. Like there's, for transparency. And we appreciate all your efforts, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. I saw, okay, just making sure and going through the chat just to make sure I did not miss any additional questions. I see that there was a question about the conference app and that our wonderful team has already answered questions about the issues that did exist. So, and just acknowledging that there was some API technical difficulties. And so this is the inaugural year for using it. Thank you so much to everyone for being patient with our app. There was questions about Folk Plus, and Jennifer also noted that they will be reaching out with more details about Folk Plus in the near future. You will receive email correspondence regarding it as well. Those dates for Folk Plus are June 5th and 6th. And then I see that Mike Beck has also asked an additional question about Nordic Folk Alliance. And Laia is not here, and I feel like Laia is the most appropriate person to answer those questions. And so, Mike, we would love for you to email us any of those questions and we can get you connected with Laia from Nordic Folk Alliance and make sure that we can help answer and address any of those questions that you have related specifically to Nordic Folk Alliance. Okay, are there any further questions at this time from the chat or from YouTube as well? Okay, thank you so much. Again, thank you everyone for your questions. We really appreciate it. Thank you again. Just to leave everyone with a little bit of closing. Oh, and Noel asked one question. I'm just going to end on it because it's Noel. Is the conference always 4 days? I would love if one of our staff members could answer that question just to provide that clarity as well.
The conference usually kicks off on Wednesday and ends on full day. Well, there's full day program on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's typically a closing party at night and something in the afternoon, but it's 4 full days, but technically 5.
Thank you so much. We will end on that question since we have only designated an hour for this conversation and time. Again, I just want to offer some brief closing remarks to say I am truly energized by how dedicated this community is. We are just surrounded by such passionate and caring individuals within this community that care about folk music, that care about the people that are here. And that is why we're here and part of Folk Alliance International. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for tuning in today. And more importantly, thank you so much for being a part of this ever-growing community. I truly appreciate you, and we all truly appreciate you. With that said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. All right. And I saw Dee seconded that motion. Thank you so much for being here. And we hope that you will join us soon for Folk Plus, our virtual edition, June 5th and 6th. More information is forthcoming. Thanks for being here today, everyone.